When we prepare a large meal for a big group of people, we are always thinking of what food we can make, if we have all of our ingredients for our recipes, and if our home is ready for our guests. If we have a guest that is from a different culture or ethnic background, we then might consider cooking some foreign recipes to make our guests feel welcome and at home. However, one thing that most of us don't stop to consider is how our manners are with our guests. Obviously, most of us have decent table etiquette, but have we paused to consider how this may affect our guests? When we have an international guest joining us for dinner, should we change our table centerpiece or set our table differently? Perhaps we should even get a different tablecloth or arrange our chairs differently to best accommodate the needs of our guests. I hope that by listening to my presentation today, you can get the answers you need to dealing with a guest with a different background, without seeming rude to them in any way. Good afternoon. My name is Ashley, and I'm a 14-year-old senior member with the Loma Vista 4-H Club of Ventura, California. Today, I'll be giving a Why Manners Matter presentation in multicultural feasts. Before I get to the main part of my content, I would like to share my inspiration for my presentation today. As an individual that is descended from numerous cultures and ethnic groups, as someone who has had half their family born in the former Soviet Union, modern-day Ukraine, I feel a very strong connection to my subject matter today. From my personal experience, I can definitely testify to the fact that dining with other cultures can be immensely enjoyable, as you get to hear all kinds of different stories and get to eat some types of foods that you have never eaten before. However, dining with different cultures can certainly have its challenges. Naturally, you will have your cultural differences, and without knowing how to handle them as the host of your foreign guests, can lead to potentially embarrassing and alienating situations for both you and your guest. I hope that by listening to my presentation today, you can learn how to be a warm and welcoming host for all kinds of people. When you first find out that you'll be hosting a guest that comes from a different background than you, the best thing you can do is to conduct some research on their culture, particularly on their table manners and what they like to be served for dinner. If you're hosting a Vietnamese family, for example, you may learn that it is part of Vietnam's tradition to sit at the dinner table 20 minutes before the food is to be served. You should prepare for this by adjusting your cooking times and for alerting your other guests that this will be taking place. Although it is the guest's job to communicate to you if they have any dietary restrictions, the more you learn about the culture or religion, the less questions you will have to ask them, which will not only release the barrier and awkwardness, but knowing about the other person's cultural difference can spark some conversation at the dinner table. Before your guest arrives, it would be wise for you to ask them if there's any kind of food that they are not allowed to eat, if the food needs to be cooked in a different way than usual, or if the table needs to be set differently. Although your research should be able to tell you a lot about your guest's nationality or religious differences, you still want to make sure that you have all your bases covered to avoid offending your guest. If your guest tells you that there's special accommodations, make sure that you completely understand their needs and ask any questions you need so they feel understood. If your guest doesn't need any modifications to your meal, tell them they can feel free to reach out to you anytime if they end up thinking of something later on. Once your guest arrives to the dinner, welcome them just like you would like any other guest. During the actual meal, make sure that you are frequently asking them how everything is and be ready to make any necessary adjustments. Don't ask them too often, as this can highlight the fact that they are different from you, disrupt their conversation with other guests, and cause an uneasy tension in the room. When your guest is leaving, make sure that they can find their way out and that you show your genuine appreciation for having their company for that evening. If your guest will be dining with you on a more regular basis, it might be a good idea to ask them how their experience was that evening and if there's anything you can change to make their meal better for the next time. Here are a few key points to remember. The best gift you can give to your international guest is compassion. No matter what the quality of the food is or the atmosphere of the meal, your guests will appreciate compassion over everything, because anyone that is different has most definitely experienced a lack of compassion from hosts and other people. Lastly, treat your guests as you would want to be treated in their home and respect their differences. If you follow these rules, you're sure to have a wonderful multicultural meal, and you may even make some new friends from around the world. This concludes my Why Manners Matter presentation. Thank you for listening.